So here are the directions, and you can see those dark lines on the side are where formers and pieces of wood are going to go all the way across to the front, and we're going to start with that diagonal piece on back. These little saw teeth are areas that are going to go and help hold on the rear turtle deck on the fuselage. That is a piece that is put on some wood and becomes the floor. And here are the pieces cut out. You can see it's one big piece cut out, and then that piece there is the turtle deck. But the whole piece comes out like this. And it's done this way to make it easy to line up, but it kind of makes it difficult. I might find I'm going to take some things apart. And those saw teeth, there those saw teeth are, those are added separately. See, they're cut off and glued on the inside there. But those are going to give you purchase for glue when you make that back piece. This piece right here. This is going to be the turtle deck when it comes time. I'll form it, make it kind of curved, and then they're going to curve over and attach to a piece of a former there on the rear cockpit, and then they'll touch those pieces, and that'll glue it into place. When we get there, that'll be probably next time. And then here is the piece we've already done, and you can see that the idea is that you can basically glue this on, like starting with the bottom or a side, and just basically wrap it around that whole piece, making sure to keep everything lined up, making sure all the little marks and hatches hit the center of the formers and everything, and make sure it's imperative that the wing sides come down where they're supposed to be and they're even, all these sorts of things. But that's generally how it's supposed to go. And then here's this wooden piece that will go right up there, tuck up behind that former, and form the top piece. Now there is nothing like that for the bottom, which is kind of weird, but we'll see how that goes. Now, here's that piece is going to go right there. I've drawn a line where it's supposed to go, where it's supposed to match up. And what I decided to do is take a couple little triangles I'm cutting out of balsa, just right angles, and glue them to give me some support. And in the next picture you'll see what that looks like. Basically take those, glue them to that piece of wood, and then when I glue that whole structure to that former, it's going to give me a little bit more purchase, make it a little bit sturdier, I think. So I put some glue on the back of that little sucker, and here I'm just lining it up as best I can for every test fit this to make sure it's okay. And I'm using super glue in this case just to get it on there quick and easy and strong. And there it is. So there it is with those little triangles holding it in place. So now it's sort of a stronger thing. It's a nice backbone to start putting the rest of the body together. I don't know if this is needed, but this is how I decided to do it. So now I again can start to try to fit this. And what I decided to do after thinking about it and testing it a million times is start by using that centerpiece. I drew a centerpiece, which is the center line. There's a couple little hatches on the colored side to let you know. And there's a couple of corresponding lines on all the ribs, on the formers, I mean. There's one there, there's one in the front, and there's even one in the center. So I decided I'm going to put some glue on those spots and start gluing the skin on from that centerpiece. I figured that would be a good way to begin, and then I'll start to wrap it around because that should be good and straight. I want to make sure that the, like the cabin struts are where they're supposed to be. So I'm lining up that little hatch right there onto the pencil line I've drawn, and then I make sure it's touching and centered for all the formers in the back, and then I just very delicately sort of push down and let those things dry. Gives it a few minutes. A few seconds maybe, to let it dry. And then I'll start forcing the wrap around like that and put it around everything. Now notice I have not that big W. Those are to remove the cockpit openings. I decided to leave those on so that I could form this piece around my balsa box, I think a little easier. So there, I put a little glue onto the side panels on that one side, and then I bring this down and pull it and make sure that the front piece lines up with the bulkhead and with the lower section. and it does very well. Again, the kit is very well designed. You couldn't do this if it wasn't made that way. Then I just use my thumbs and my fingers and just kind of roll everything and make sure it gets glued into place. So that looks good. The other side seems to fit, so I do the very same thing. Put some glue on here, spread it out, and then I will fold that side down. It's just a repeated process. You keep doing this and it works really well. I just smooth the glue out so I don't have any big bubbles or big blobs of glue. More like just have a film on there. And then I grab this and I again tug it down and pull it. It's got to be tight because you want to make sure it matches the bulkhead, but you want to make sure it matches the bottom. See that black piece in the leading edge of the wing? That matches right up to that bulkhead. And the side has to be dang close too, because again, if those aren't right, then the wing's not going to sit right. But they look pretty good. So now I'm going to put on the bottom. Same procedure. And this piece fits pretty well. I have a slight bit of the white showing. It's not absolutely perfect, but it's good enough, and I think it'll work out just fine. So slide this piece over, and then I'll work on getting everything else together, soon enough. Slide that over till it's flat, and again, kind of smooth it out with your fingers, and the basic box is together. Those pieces with a W. W stands for a Polish word meaning to cut out. So those will be cut out with a sharp X-Acto next. But I decided to go ahead and glue these pieces on. You line them up so just the sawtooth part, like the valley of the sawtooth, is right on the edge of this piece of wooden shelf here. So I just put glue all the way down the side and then very carefully glue that piece, the sawtooth piece, to the side. Now notice the inside of the sawtooth is a different, it's not paper, it's the stuff that came with the magazine essentially. It's almost like the cover of the magazine, and I noticed that, that's the way you're supposed to cut it out. And it's a thick piece to give you some strength, I guess. But that component is kind of, it's kind of shiny, so it doesn't glue that well. Maybe I should have put the other side to the glue side. I wasn't sure. But in any event, it worked finally. But it did give me a little bit of a problem. I had to re-glue a few things a couple of times, but it finally did work. Same thing, glue all the way down that side and do the same thing. Just carefully, tooth by tooth, put it in there. I'll see there one, it popped off the other side. And just get that thing nice and solid and just make sure they're even. Again, I used, in this case, the rear. I haven't put the former in the rear yet, but I wanted to make sure when I look at it on the end that, say, the stabilizer holes openings are going to be even. That white piece there by my finger is the stabilizer slot. It's going to be cut out. So make sure that's right. Make sure it's all nice and strong and tight. And there's the beginning. So far, with a little tweaking, it's coming together quite well.